Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Black Millennial Wife. I'm Jet.
I'm Avis.
All right, so we like to start off every episode highlighting a Black business. Listen, I have waited to share this with you guys. So it's a little past the season and past the time now, but this beautiful chocolate swimsuit is from Xhale Swim. I am obsessed with this woman, with this company, and let me tell you why. So my package got lost. It got sent back to Florida. We had a whole debacle with UPS. It was a hot mess. As soon as I emailed Jessica Wong, she got back to me. She went and handled it. She questioned UPS. She took care of me. And because of that, I will continue to purchase swimsuits for her or from her, and I wanted to recommend her to you guys. Also, what I thought was amazing and so not like normal was I got a handwritten thank you card. Can you see that? Look at that. Handwritten. Exactly. Where do you get handwritten notes from nowadays? Nowhere. Listen, Jessica Lee Wong, I love you. I thank you so much for helping me. I will always shop with you. If you're in the market for a swimsuit, please go check out Xhale Swim. She has a website, xhaleswim.com, and she can also be found on Instagram.
Awesome. All right. So the Black business that I would like to highlight is Ferris Photos. They are a young couple that does amazing photography and videography. I have attended weddings that they've shot at and just been a follower of them for quite a while. You can find them on Instagram at Ferris Photos, or you can go to their website and it's ferrisphotos.com, and it's PHARRIS. But they have amazing work. They are a very loving couple, and you can see that in their shoots that they do for other people, and follow them on Instagram. They share stories and all that kind of stuff. So go check them out if you are in the business looking for So go check them out if you are looking for a photographer or a videographer for your wedding, for your newborn pictures, for your engagement photos, for your family photos, whatever. They do it all.
Awesome.
Arguments. And where this came from was my husband and I got into a little bit of an argument recently, and I was just sitting back reflecting on how far we have come and how we have those difficult discussions with each other. So this last time, there were no raised voices. There was not a lot of attitude. We were definitely in disagreement, but we were able to see and identify that we were in disagreement very early. We just sat down and talked to each other. I did not get emotional. He don't ever get emotional, but sometimes I do. But we had a very constructive conversation, and it didn't used to be like that. You know what I'm saying? It used to be very opposite, let me say. We have definitely had some very heated arguments. I'm so blessed that we have not ever gotten physical or anything like that. But the Lord is still working on me. And when I get a little heated, I curse. So, I'm trying to work on that, and I did not do it this last time, and it was just such a blessing. So one of the early arguments that we had in our relationship, I don't even remember what it was about. It was right after we got married, and it was just so emotion filled. Like, it was just so like outrageous. It was an outrageous argument, and the fact that I can remember the argument but I don't remember what we were arguing about goes to show you how much of a show it was, how dramatic it was, and how, reflecting on it, it didn't fix anything. The argument didn't fix anything. Us yelling at each other, and my husband's not really the type to yell, but me yelling at him and him ignoring me it didn't help the situation. So going through pre-marriage counseling and post-marriage counseling and getting tools to understand how to constructively have an argument has really blessed us. And so we wanted to have this conversation to hopefully bless someone else. If you just got off a heated argument with your spouse and you need, to know that that's normal and help you get past that, please stick around and hear, what we have to say. So,
listen, that toolbox, okay, at one time that toolbox was left at Lowe's and I didn't have it yet, okay, sis. It was still at Lowe's and I needed to go get it. Even though I learned from jump I needed to have a toolbox, I never went and purchased the toolbox, okay? Listen, my wonderful husband and I can say wonderful in this conversation because that man has never yelled at me. Never. And when I tell you I have talked crazy to him,
I'm sure.
Okay, crazy, and I've talked crazy to him, okay? He is definitely the yin to my yang, because I was a firecracker. And I say was because I went and I purchased my toolbox and I brought it home and I started to buy one tool at a time and put it in my toolbox so that I wouldn't be so aggressive and angry and disrespectful at times, because it wasn't healthy. So one of the things I would say I have learned is that I need to listen twice as more as I speak. That's a big one because I can talk. I'm good with my words. Boom, 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 boom. I'm ready. Good with them, which of course will shut my husband down because he's a processor. He's a thinker. I have truly had to learn, Jed, shut up. Shut up and stop talking. You don't know everything. You don't know everything. And we as women like to think we know almost everything. And that does nothing but hurt your relationship and makes your partner frustrated.
Yeah. One tool. And I think it is so important. And it's hard it's kind of like you have to work backwards. That's how I viewed it, right? Like you have to learn and understand how your partner has conversations and kind of almost tailor how you have conversations to how they have conversations, right? Like I have heard, and I'm still working on this, but I have heard that it is our job as the woman in the relationship to learn our husband's language and adapt. It's not the husband's job to learn our language and adapt, because if we want them to communicate the way that we communicate, we probably would not have married them if they communicated the way that we communicate, right? And so
let's pause for station identification. Sis, you just said a word. Let the people marinate. Say that one more time, please. Ali, you just taught me something. You just taught me something because that previous relationship that I've talked about in a past episode, we communicated the same way. And that's all we did was fight and argue. And as much as I yelled and screamed, he yelled and screamed.
Yeah.
Hence the reason we ain't married.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't really want that. We don't really want a man that communicates the way. Let me correct. I can't speak for you out there in viewer land, but I don't really want a man that communicates the way that I communicate. And so I don't remember who told me that. I don't know where I got that from. Had to be somebody that was experienced in marriage. But it really, once I realized that and I accepted that, because at first I was like, oh, no, wait a minute. He needs to learn how I talk. He needs to come to me. not me coming to him, but it's been such a blessing for me to really sit down, analyze how my husband processes his emotions and communicates what he's thinking, how he's feeling. And then if I can meet him where he is and really speak his language, that cuts down the arguments at least by half. And so a real world application for like how my husband communicates and how it's been able to help is that when something happens, whatever the case may be, whatever is triggering the argument, I want to address it right away. We need to talk about this right now. I'm not trying to wait because I need to get it off my chest. Like, y'all don't even, it's like heartburn. Like I can feel fire in my chest if I need to get something out that I cannot get out, right? But my husband is the complete opposite. He needs some distance and some time away from whatever the triggering situation is to process and to think. And you know what? Not to say it as if he's like slow or something and he needs days to process things. Really, it's a benefit to the both of us. Because if I have more time to process, I can come down off of my anger. I can come down off of my attitude. I can come down off of my high horse. And I can really separate my emotion from the situation and think a little bit more logically. And that's how my husband communicates. He communicates through logic. If I come to him and say, well, you hurt my feelings and I'm just sad cuz, and you just pissed me off cuz, that's not how I get through to him. I have to bring him logic. And that can be difficult because people, like, logic ain't universal, right? Like what makes sense to me may not make sense to you. But if I can just come to him and say, I didn't appreciate this because of X, Y, and Z, he hears that better than me yelling or me like having tears. Like it that's not how he communicates. So
that's so funny because Trey is, for me, communicating with him, I can come to him with tears or you hurt my feelings or that wasn't nice or, those little things. And he gets it instantly. Like he sees it in my eyes. He gets it, whatever the case may be. And logic never hurts either. But for me, it's easy for me to communicate with him that way, for me saying that something affected me. So it's so true that you have to know how to communicate with your spouse. And we don't always take the time to learn that as early on as we should. We spend a lot of time with the back and forth, with the arguing, with all of that stuff, instead of taking a second, trying to figure out how your spouse communicates, and or just asking, how would you like me to communicate with you? What would allow it to register with you that whatever, I'm feeling hurt or I disagree with something you've said? No, because I don't remember asking that question. I don't ever remember asking my husband in the beginning, how would you like me to communicate with you when something has hurt me or I'm upset about something? It took years down the road for us to figure it out through trial and error instead of just opening our mouths and just asking. Because we got to know how to communicate so we don't just ask and we waste a whole lot of time and have a whole lot of nights and days unspoken, like two ships in the night passing, because I ain't got to talk to you. And we ain't had no kids. What I talk to you for? You's a grown man that can go get yourself something to eat. We don't need to speak, y'all. I'm sorry. The Lord has fixed my heart, and I do not do that to my husband no more. But back in the day, we ain't got to speak. For what? I am mad at you. And you don't get why I'm mad at you.
Okay, that's the thing. I think we definitely had the same experience. Like, took years to come to just asking the simple question of, how would you like to be told when it's a difficult situation, like, how would you like for me to communicate to you that we need to have a conversation, right? And so I feel like the reason why that was so hard for us was because we expected the other person to know. We didn't been together. You know me, I know you. You supposed to know what hurt my feelings. You supposed to know how I think. Like, and not understanding that really we speak two different languages. We speak two different languages based off of so many different things. I'm a female. You are a male. You grew up in this kind of household. I grew up in another kind of household. Like, the reason I have to come to my husband with logic rather than feeling is because he comes from an environment where logic ruled. Like, it was not. And, you know, he has very loving parents. Like, they love him to death, but they are very logical, rational individuals. So I don't necessarily know if he always got asked, how do you feel as a child, right? I always got asked, how do you feel, Avis? How do you feel? Are you okay? Like, what are you going through right now? Like, talk to me about it, right? And so when he was like, you can't come to me talking about your feelings off the rip, I was like, what do you mean? That's what I know. I know feelings, and these are my feelings because I was brought up in an environment where I was trained early how to identify those feelings and how to communicate them. And so coming from two different places, right, we just expected the other person to know things that you couldn't possibly know unless you were a mind reader.
Absolutely. And none of us are that. Let's communicate. Let's open our mouths. And if you're having difficulties having the tough conversations, ask, hey, babe, how would you like to have tough conversations? How would you like me to communicate with you if something has hurt my feelings, if I'm mad about something, or whatever the case may be? And then communicate it that way. Don't be stubborn and say, no, you should get it my way. I'm saying it clearly. You should get it when I'm saying it. No, we have to be able to communicate with each other the way our spouse can internalize it and understand it, especially since that's our goal, is to have our spouse understand what it is that we're communicating.
Yeah. It's so simple, but it's so hard.
It is. We are not trying to make it seem like it's easy, because I think I could confidently say about year 5 or 6, I started to learn how to communicate appropriately and effectively, to where we aren't getting angry, or I'm not getting angry and upset and yelling and screaming or whatever the case may be, or getting so frustrated that I don't talk to you for several days. So, I mean, it's not easy by any means, but we could have skipped all that. We could have skipped all that and learned how to communicate properly if we would have just opened up our mouths and asked.
And
so what about apologizing? Now, I feel like there's very few times I've ever needed to apologize, but yeah, I think that's something that I had to. I've never had an issue apologizing, but to apologize even when I feel like I've done nothing wrong, I think has been the learning experience for me, is that even if I didn't, in my mind, hurt your feelings, perception is reality. And if you perceive that your feelings are hurt because of what I said, I need to fix my lips to apologize genuinely for it. And I have learned that my apologies come genuine when I sit and I think about what has been told to me, and understand within myself how that could have affected my husband. And then, okay, babe, I wanted to apologize for this, this, and this. For me, it doesn't feel like I'm genuinely apologizing if I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I gotta sit on it for a minute so I understand it.
So I don't think that, okay, so the first thing I would want to say in this is there are steps to forming a proper apology. And that's not something that I knew prior to pre-marriage counseling. And in all honesty, it's not something that I practice every time I need to apologize. So I did have to Google the steps to a proper apology to make sure we're communicating it to somebody that may need to hear it. So it says, say you're sorry, not I'm sorry, but like just say you're sorry. Say I apologize. Own the mistake. So like acknowledging what you are apologizing for. Describe what happened so the person that you are apologizing to really gets that you understand what the situation is and why they're apologizing. Admit that you're wrong. Have a plan on how to not need to apologize again for that specific thing, and then ask for forgiveness. And that's the thing that I think I struggle with a lot, was the forgiveness piece. I don't think that I have a problem asking for forgiveness, but I had a problem giving forgiveness. Because in my mind, for a long time, and sometimes even now, you shouldn't need to apologize for that. You shouldn't have did it. And so you saying sorry doesn't mean anything, because now my feelings are hurt. And now I don't want to forgive you. I'm not ready to forgive you. I really wanted to hold on to the anger and to the like being the victim. It was me embracing victimhood, right? I wanted to feel like the victim. I wanted to feel like the person that had done wrong and not the person. I wanted to feel like the person that had received whatever action was and not the person that did the action. And so I held on to my victimhood and I milked the situation for all that it was worth to make sure that my husband felt bad, like bad enough, like bad to the point that I feel sufficient. Like, okay, that's enough feeling bad.
This is good. Yeah.
And so it was just so unhealthy because my husband would apologize, but I wouldn't accept it. I'd be like, okay, whatever. Like, all right, but I'm still gonna have an attitude with you. Like, I'm still gonna not want to talk to you. I'm still gonna be salty about the situation. And, you know, I feel like the result of that was my husband wasn't willing to apologize after a while, because it was just like, why am I apologizing to this person that never accepts it, that never accepts the apology and can't move past it? So, you know,
and that's dangerous. That's dangerous because the Bible talks about forgiveness, and the measure in which you forgive your brother, your sister, is the measure in which you will be forgiven. And when you think about that, baby, that measuring stick, that ain't what you want. That ain't what you want. Because what we do on a daily basis to our Father in heaven, and he continues and continues to forgive us and bless us in the midst of our wrongdoing. I don't want that to happen. Me, myself, personally, I don't need that taken away. Please, God, don't. So if my job is to forgive, please help me in my heart to genuinely forgive my husband and or anybody else that offends me, because I surely need it from you, God.
And that's
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's hands down. But that is something I had to work on as well. Because I think just my past trials in life, just the things I've dealt with, have made it hard for me to forgive, because you feel like there's this level of, if this person can do something to me this bad and this hurtful, what can anybody else do? So I can't put anything past anybody. So I'm gonna hold it at a distance. And if you do something wrong, I was the type of person that would be like, I'm done. I'm not even going to allow myself to continue to get hurt by you. So I'm done with you. And then I would quote unquote, oh, I'm not mad anymore. I forgive you. I'm not mad. But yet I've washed my hands with you. That doesn't sound like forgiveness. Now, and if God is using that measuring stick with me and he washes his hands with me, then I would have a problem. So we have to be very careful with that. And we have to learn to truly forgive. And I think I have definitely gotten to the place where I have done that. And I think that also allows me to just move on faster. You know what I mean? Like the whole not talking to each other and that bit, like it got old, because who wants to live their life like that? Like we're all we have 24/7, and you want to go and spend 48 of those hours not talking to anybody? Because I also need you to see I have an attitude, so I also don't want to be kikiing with somebody else. You need to know I'm mad. I mean, that's when I think about it now, bro, we were childish. Childish. And I'm so grateful that we're past that phase. And not to say I may not have a moment where I don't want to talk, and that's fine. But the Bible also tells us to not let the sun go down on our wrath. So we need to have that conversation, apologize, come back together, and move on, all in that same moment of having the disagreement, because it's not healthy. It's not what God commands us to do as Christians, as wives. I mean, it's not healthy, you know?
Yeah, you just have to find what works. Like you have to communicate before it comes to a head, I think.
Right.
Communicate before it comes to a head and get a plan. Like get a plan on how you can do that conversation that's difficult in a healthy way with your spouse. I know this pandemic and my husband working from home, at the beginning of him telling me, yeah, I'm gonna be working from home for I don't even know how long, I was just like, ooh, okay. I don't know, like, okay, I love spending time with you, but we ain't been the type to do that. You know what I mean? Like, and so a good friend of mine, one of our line sisters, she was just like, what's the plan when you freak out about something and Philip get on your nerves? And I was like, oh, we should get a plan. And see, that's another thing. We could talk about this at another time. Get people that support your marriage in your life.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
People that know you well enough to tell you gonna freak out. He gonna get on your nerves. So you need to get a plan. I'm so thankful for her. Thank you, Candace. Shout
Amen.
out. But
Amen.
her saying that triggered me to be like, okay, we need to get a plan. And so we sat down and we talked, and we had like a panic word, like a safe word, right? So like when he was getting on my nerves, I was getting on his nerves. Before we let it turn into a full-blown argument, we said beef tips. Beef tips means stop talking. We're not going to talk for a while. We just going to separate. You going to do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. And then we going to come back together after everybody is cool. So if you got to, get a word.
Get a code word.
More than welcome to take beef tips. That's what works.
Lord have mercy, not beef tips, Jesus. Listen, okay, so I think another tool for me, and I think this is one of my most valuable tools, and I learned this in counseling with somebody. I don't remember. But everything doesn't need to be said.
That's a hard one.
And I've said that before, and I've told you that before. And I'm telling those watching, everything does not need to be said. And this is coming from a girl who likes it all laid out on the table. Let me get it all out. Because like you said, you feel heartburn. My ears get hot. And they feel like they're about to boil off of my head. It's the most uncomfortable feeling. But that's my thing. And I have had to learn that sometimes I just have to let it go. Because again, this being a podcast that's about being the Christian women and wives that we're supposed to be, the Bible talks about us bridling our tongues.
Mm-hmm.
It can cut like a sword.
Mm-hmm.
And I know mine could. And I have to realize that me just saying things is not doing anybody any good. It may allow my ears to cool down a little bit, but is what I'm saying actually benefiting our relationship, my relationship with God, anything? Is it benefiting anything? Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say going to help me? Is it going to help my husband? Is it going to give God any glory? And if there's a no, maybe not, I don't know, in any of that, it doesn't need to be said. And I think that's one of the most valuable tools that I have put into my toolbox and has probably saved me from divorce.
That's heavy. Okay, that's good.
I mean, because sometimes I can remember in past arguments where you just know how to cut your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Every wife knows how to cut their husband. And sometimes I would just say things just so he could hurt because I'm hurt. And how is that okay? How is that loving? How is that Christ-like? It's not. So I had to realize when you are upset, sometimes if it's not going to benefit the situation, don't say it. Period.
I have a similar experience, I think. So I think the last thing for me, like a big thing that I had to learn and stash away in my toolbox for those times when I needed it, was that it benefits nobody to win the argument. I am definitely somebody who can talk you down. Like, I can just beat a dead horse, basically, with what I got to say. So I had to realize that me winning the fight, winning the argument, and feeling triumphant, like, yeah, now he know what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, now he know what I mean. Right? Like, that was beating my husband down. That was beating him down as a man. That was beating him down as somebody that should feel safe in their home to express how they feel freely. Like, it was not helping anything. And so when we get to those, and we definitely still have those times where it's just like we just hitting a brick wall. Ain't nothing else can be said. I don't know how to speak another language to help you get it. Like, we just have hit the wall on this particular topic. I have to let it go and give it to the Lord for real. Like, we not going to revisit this. Like, I'm not going to have an attitude with you about this later. Like, I'm still going to go about my wifely duties with no complaint and with a smile on my face. Even though you don't see what I'm saying and you're not giving me what I necessarily think I need in this argument to feel like it's complete and over, I'm just going to stop and I'm just going to let God handle it. And not necessarily, it took me a little bit longer to realize this, not necessarily let God handle you, but let God handle me too. Because I have to realize that I could be wrong in this situation. I could be wrong in this situation and wholly feel like I'm right.
Yeah.
So instead of keep going and keep trying to get him to submit, basically, is what I was doing, trying to get my husband to submit to me as the victor in this scenario, in this argument, I had to stop that because it was disruptive to my husband and it was destructive to my marriage. And it just was not going to get us in a place where we needed to be to grow together. And so I've had to just stop arguments when I feel like they could continue, and just give it to the Lord and really be done with it. And I have been able to see how God has either changed my heart or changed my husband's heart, so that we are able to better understand each other past that argument and past that.
Absolutely. That's a word, because I can remember times where we have had disagreements, and instead of me feeding into it, just letting it go and praying about it, and physically being able to see God change my heart, my husband's heart, or the situation itself. So I think that's definitely something very powerful to do, is to just learn to let go and let God. I mean, it's a cliche phrase, but it is so true. So true. I would say one of my takeaways for this episode would be just overall to build your toolbox. You have to have it in order to make this thing work for the rest of your life. You have to have resources that you tap into, to get through, to make it work when things come up, when you go through new phases in your marriage, in your relationship, in your walk with Christ. So you have to be able to go somewhere and get these things. So I would just say, if you haven't started working on building one, whether you're married, engaged, dating, or whatever the case may be, start now. Start researching, finding, reading the Bible, reading books on effective ways to communicate. It's not going to do anything but benefit your marriage and your relationships in general.
I would say my takeaway is, if you haven't already had the conversation to figure out how your spouse communicates in arguments, what they need from you in arguments, what you need from them in arguments, if you have not had that conversation, do it. Like, just do it. Because even if they cannot necessarily articulate what they need in a conversation, it's going to plant the seed for them to think about it. And hopefully in a couple days, next week, they're able to give you an answer that you can use to have healthy arguments later on. If you are not able to articulate how you like for conversations like that to go, what you need, if you need time away, if you want to talk about it right away, if you don't like cussing, if you don't like raised voices, like, have those conversations if you have not already. Because I think just having that plain conversation and setting some guidelines and some boundaries and some ground rules will assist you much later on down the road.
Absolutely. For sure. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap up our episode with how we won at adulting this week. Everybody wants to be an adult. We all want to grow up. And then we get there and it's like, what's happening? It never stops. So we want to celebrate when we have done any and everything to be the best adults that we can be. So I would like to highlight the fact that once you have seen this episode, it'll be past time, but we are currently in the midst of celebrating my husband's birthday and our 8-year anniversary. So I have done the adult good wife thing. We celebrated, I cooked for him, had our family over and just enjoyed ourselves, had a great time, tried to surprise him the best that I could. So it definitely felt like a win for me. I made it happen. I could have ordered in. It would have just made my life so much easier. But my husband loves it when I cook for him. So I try to do it whenever I can, because I don't do it all the time. So he definitely loved it. We enjoyed it. And so I feel like that's my celebration at adulting this week. What about you?
So, little backstory. So, I suffered a little bit of a loss this week. My dog passed away. Rest in peace, Balo. I ain't too far off into it. I might get a little emotional, but my husband was digging the hole so we can have his funeral service in our backyard. I know that that's not the law. Oh, what? But he cut the cable line, like the internet line, to the house. And so shouldn't have did it. But so we didn't have the internet for quite a few days. And so I called the cable company and I said, hey, this is what's happening. And we got it resolved. So I just, did the adult thing. I was honest with them. Yes, we cut the line. It was not on purpose. Yes, we should have called to see where the line was before we started digging in the backyard. But here we are. And so I was honest with them. I appreciated that. And I got our internet restored. So that was something that, I wanted to do by doing that.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Black Millennial Wife.
So don't forget to like, share, and comment. Please let us know how you have figured out the communication style of your husband. Was it the hard way? Was it the easy way? What did it look like for you all? And has it helped you in your marriage? So we will be looking at those comments and we will highlight anything that we may not have shared that we think would help somebody else. So thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to look out for our next episode that will be posted on Friday. Bye.